Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast where we have Shelby, and she is the owner of Lightning Hair Lounge and Lifestyle Company, a salon owner and lifestyle coach on a mission to ignore a life of health, wealth, and happiness for hairstylists and salon owners. After years of building, managing, and leading a thriving team, she launched Lightning Lifestyle Coaching to help others break free from burnout, overwhelm, and the emotional stress that often storms through the beauty industry. Through her five lightning lifestyle pillars of success, Shelby empowers high achieving women to take radical ownership of their lives and careers. From launching her first business at 22 to buying her first rental property at 27, she's turned personal trials into powerful transformation. Her coaching is designed to spark bold habits, build unstoppable routines, and unleash electric energy so you can live life at full throttle behind the chair and beyond. Life's too short to stay stuck and burned out. It's time to light up your life again. So, welcome, Shelby.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So, after we get through the bio, the next thing we always like to jump into is how did we get here? So what was your journey? Did you always want to be a hairstylist growing up? Was that always your passion? Did you stumble into it and find that you loved it? And then how did we go from hairstylist, behind the chair, owner of a salon to now a coach?
Yeah, so I never wanted to be a hairstylist, never thought of it, never considered it. I was that kid that every single year I wanted to be something different. And I was always starting my own, like little businesses through high school, from Etsy shops to my photography business and business. And so then yeah, my senior year of high school, well, I guess my junior year of high school, the guy I was dating, his sister was a hairstylist, and she was like, "You should go to Votech, just see if you like hair." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And I hated high school, so I was just pumped to get out of school for half the day and go to Votech. And so um yeah, from there, I liked it and I was somewhat good at it. And so then I finished my education at Paul Mitchell Partner School near my area. And it was that school, like truly, I go hard for Paul Mitchell. They really have a great education. Cape, it was when they had Caper, they had all of these opportunities. And so I just saw all of the opportunities that this industry had, because before I was just like, oh, behind the chair, and that's all I knew. And so then once I went to the Paul Mitchell School, I was like, oh, I have so many options I could do within this career. And so I've never looked back at photography. Was like my main thing before hair that I would have told you I wanted to do. But yeah, ever since then, I mean, it goes hand in hand, and I still use those skills now, but it's been hair ever since then. And then once I got out of the industry, I was all over the place. I was in like a very upscale salon and spa, and that just wasn't my speed. I always say it was like the bubble bath of OPI colors, like everyone in the salon wanted bubble bath, and clearly with my hot pink hair, like I don't want to do bubble bath nails all day, or like just the same thing all day. Nothing wrong with that, just not what I wanted to do. And so then from there, I went to a family owned salon where I worked with just the owner. It was just her and I trained with her. And then from there, I actually left the beauty world for about 4 months to work with Thirst Project, which is a nonprofit that Paul Mitchell raises money
Wow.
for. And yeah, so I was raising money to go to Swaziland with them. And then this opportunity, as I was just doing research about this nonprofit, I saw that they were hiring for their road warrior position. And so I applied, and then I got the job and I went out to LA and I worked with Thirst Project. And then from there, I traveled from LA to North Carolina and back, speaking at Paul Mitchell schools all over the country, along with high schools, middle schools, and colleges. And I spoke about the water crisis. So even though I was outside of the industry, I was still like interconnected with it. And through that, I met so many incredible people and made a lot of really great connections. And so whenever I came home, I was just like, whoa, like, what do I want to do now? And so I got a job at Sport Clips because I just needed to make money and I had no idea what route I wanted to go. So I worked at Sport Clips for a while. And through that time, I was still pretty close with Thirst Project and I would speak at beauty events, even though I wasn't technically working with them anymore. And so then I met editorial artist DJ Riggs and Barry Bakken in New York City. And I loved them. They loved me, and they've taken me all over the country with them to premiere shows, IBS shows. Like I got to assist and work really closely with them, and I'm still really close with them. And then that's when I went back, got my teacher's license, and at my Paul Mitchell school. So then I was a Paul Mitchell educator at the school I graduated from, and got my teaching license from, and taught for about a year. From there, was doing hair on the side, and I was accidentally building a clientele, and so then it just got to be too much, like doing hair and working all day. And I lived an hour away from the school, so it
Oh,
was a very long day. And that's when I opened my salon in 2018. So we just celebrated our 7 years in April. And so that's how I got to opening the salon. And it makes so much sense now because through high school, I never would have said like, oh, I want to open or own my own business, but that's what I was doing all through high school, starting these like Etsy shops and stuff like that. And so now I'm like, wow, it makes total sense how I'm here. And then I hired a business coach from the very beginning, and again, it was just a connection that I had, and she was training to become a coach with a consulting company. So she had reached out to me, and it was just one of those, like, I'm a person of faith. So for me, it was like a Jesus moment in my life. And yeah, she was like, hey, I'm training. I need some client hours with consulting. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I would love to do that. And through my transformation personally with my business coaches, I at first I was really struggling mentally. I struggled with depression, and then as I was working like way too many hours, as you do when you open a company, then I then went into burnout, and I spent like years in burnout. And so working with my coaches, it was extremely life-changing for me. And that's when I fell in love with coaching and just overcoming depression and burnout holistically through lifestyle changes. That's when I was creating what I call the Lightning Lifestyle now. And that's how the Lightning Lifestyle Coaching company got started.
I love that. So I definitely want to hear about the lifestyle pillars, but let's start with your burnout.
Yeah.
I think that that's something that a lot of people may not even know that they're experiencing,
Yes.
that they're going through it. So what did leading up to that look like? You said you were in burnout for 2 years, which is a very long time to go through that. And what was that pivotal moment that made you say, pause, stop, I need a hard reset, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so I personally felt like burnout was very similar to depression, and I don't think I realized that it was burnout at first. And I thought I had like overcome depression, and then I just like had fallen back into it. But then I was learning about burnout probably from Instagram or something, and I was like, wow, this is like a real thing. It's not just a description that people, are like, oh, I'm burned out. Like, burnout is a real thing to struggle with. And I remember my coach told me at the beginning, um, she always said I was like a Ferrari, like going 100-mile an hour all the time. And she was like, you can't do that. Like, you have to take slow moments. And she was like, I don't want you to get burned out. Like, her words specifically, she said that. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I love what I'm doing. I would never get burned out. Like, I could never. And yeah, then like years later of going 100-mile an hour every day, I had fallen into burnout. And I realized I was there when I was like, I had really big monumental moments in my career. I expanded my salon in 2020 to 3 times the size of the space I was in. hired employees, and there was like no joy. There was sparks of joy, but overall, it was just, I didn't even want to be in the place that I worked so hard to create. And um, yeah, and I remember I was on like business trips as well, and like people would talk about overcoming burnout. And I remember one person was like, after this weekend, I'm no longer burned out. And in my head, I'm just like, how does that happen in just a weekend? Like, no amount of inspiration or motivation could have like pivoted me into feeling differently. And that's when I was like, this is a lifestyle practice that has to be implemented, because I really feel burnout comes from the lack of boundaries and the lack of, yeah, I would say the lack of boundaries. And whenever we're just go, 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 and we have no boundaries of like, what time is bedtime? What time are we starting work for the day? When is the phone allowed? When is scrolling allowed? All of that, and your mind is on 24/7. That's what leads us to burnout. And from my own experience, I do feel it's like a recovery from that and a practice. That's why I call it a lifestyle. It's the lightning lifestyle, because you have to change your lifestyle to overcome these big things. And we're in an industry where we're taking care of people all day long. And then not only are we taking care of our clients as a salon owner, we're taking care of our team. And then if there's unhappy people on top of that, we're the ones that are, going to bat for our team. And to be able to do that, like, we have to be our best. And that comes from taking care of ourselves first and having those boundaries in place to overcome burnout and to prevent it in the future.
So, so good. I remember someone asked me a couple of months ago and said, "Are you a life coach?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess I am, because it's not like you can separate business from your life, right?" And so it's identifying always those things that maybe someone's not doing in their personal lives that's affecting their professional life. And I always say personal always pushes professional. And so, Shelby, this is amazing. No wonder why I fell in love with you in 6 seconds. I knew when I walked in the room at the Pennsylvania Hair Show, I was like, she has to be in my life. And so I'm so glad that you're here and talking to salon owners and leaders, because that's who's really listening to this message right now. And I really want to, like Sean said, I want to dive into your boundaries, or not just your boundaries, but also your pillars. But I want to touch on this boundary thing for a second, because I think this is so big, because I think a lot of people don't really understand what boundaries are, right? So it's like kind of getting back to that. And for me, boundaries is not having a good training on how to lead, how to empower your team to take things, because leaders that I hear them say to me, I'm overwhelmed. It's because they don't know how to delegate or who to delegate to. So instead, they just take everything on and just do everything themselves. So talk about your business as a leader and also salons that you're coaching. What are you noticing that keeps happening over and over that causes this lack of boundaries leading to burnout?
Yeah, I would say the biggest one that I hear, that I see, and also that I feel and can fall into still is, well, I can just do it. It's really quick for me to do it. And
Yeah.
might be the case, but we have teams that want to help us, and we have people that want to help us. And if we just invest a few minutes or 1 hour of our day, of our week, to train someone else how to do something that they
Mhm.
are more than capable of doing and happy to do it, then that is going to transform our lives and their life. Like, it's giving them more responsibility and ownership over being a part of your team and your salon. And yeah, just, I think responsibility equals empowerment. And so
Mm.
we're really doing our team a disservice by just doing everything ourselves. And when we're doing everything ourselves, it goes back to the lack of boundaries. Like, then we can only do so much in a day. So how are we spending our time? And probably the number one thing that I learned in the consulting classes that I've taken is do what only you can do as the owner, and everything else needs to be delegated. And really taking that time to train someone so you can truly delegate it.
I think one of the biggest challenges when it comes to setting those boundaries, especially, being someone, we'll use you as an example, 100-mile-an-hour Ferrari, somebody who views it that they can get it done sooner themselves, and you have people and team members that depend on you to be that 100-mile-an-hour Ferrari, that when you set those boundaries, they don't understand that you're setting something that you've never put in your life. So how did you get the people around you? Because the initial reaction usually when you put up a boundary or you're changing your availability, your schedule is no longer 12-hour days. You're going down to 8 because you're going to take care of yourself. People's reactions to that are very rarely good for you. It's
Mm.
always the flip side, and they take it very negatively. So how did you deal with that negativity, and how did you stay on that path, I guess, with adversity?
Yeah. I always say boundaries are that's our way of teaching people how to treat us. And I found just like really over communicating. And it's not an explanation because you don't owe people an explanation for your boundaries. However, I do think just educating people why we have the boundary in place is important because typically that's where that pushback comes from. People are not understanding why we're implementing something. Um, and that could be like price increases or level systems or appointment policies, like any of these things. Same with our boundaries. Like people are just not understanding why we have certain systems in place. And I think a boundary could kind of be like our personal systems of our life. And so just letting and being vulnerable, like it's okay to let your team know that like, hey, I'm struggling and I'm doing way too much and I need help. And they want to help you. Like they are on your team for a reason. And um if they're not, they're probably not in alignment with the culture that you truly want within your business and your life. And so there might be hard pushbacks and people are not understanding whether that's personal or professional. And then I would say, like, take a look, is that really in alignment in a relationship that is what you're wanting in your life. But yeah, I always go back like if it's you're teaching people how to treat you, and if there's any personal resentment on your end to other people, a lot of the times that's because we're disrespecting our own boundaries. Anytime
Mhm.
that I'm like frustrated with someone, it's because I crossed my own boundary and it's not even their fault. Like it's not even fair to that person that I have like a negative feeling towards them because it they can always ask. Like we can always ask questions and we can always like, whatever. People might push back, but then it's our job. We're in charge of our own life. And so we're the ones that just have to advocate for ourselves and explain why we're doing something.
Yeah. Wow. This is so good. You hit the nail on the head. Over communicate. I mean, but it goes back to be unclear is to be unkind. And so if
Yeah.
you're available 24/7 and all of a sudden you're not available 24/7 anymore, they're like, "Oh my gosh, do they not like me anymore? Like what's going on? Or are they upset?" But you have to be very transparent and vulnerable and say, "Hey, I want to start taking care of me a little bit more." I love this so much. And I think it's really hard for leaders. I think most leaders that I see is instead like they'll just start implementing this boundary and just kind of ghost you, but not talk, and because they're not transparent. So talk to the leader right now in the beauty industry of how to get better at being transparent. What does that look like? Because when we were speaking at the show, we were talking about this, and really people have a different definition of transparency.
Yeah. I think everything's just a practice because it's so uncomfortable. And for the
Yeah.
longest time, I felt as the salon owner and the leader of my team that I had to be perfect.
Right.
That so that way my team could trust me and they felt safe and all of the things. But what I was learning is by doing that, by keeping my issues to myself and just being like, yeah, I'll do it. I can do it. I can do it. That was creating the unsafest,
Yeah.
environment for my team because I was like on the verge of a mental breakdown. And it was very hard and very emotional for me the first time that I did open up to my team. And when I told them, like, I can't keep going the speed that I'm going. Like that was very hard. One, for me to admit to myself, admit to other people. And it was really scary sharing that, like, I am not okay right now and I need your help. But every single one of them were there, you know, because again, they're on your team for a reason. Like they are on your team, they're on your side. And when you are good, it overflows to the people around you. And so just really remembering that and changing that perspective of like, we have to come first and letting people know, like, hey, I need a little bit of extra time for me because, and this is like how it's going to reflect in everything. Yeah, I think it goes back to over communicating.
Yeah, we sat down with our salon partners and leaders and every year of saying, okay, is this description still look good for you? Because I think we might need to shift some things. So always
Yeah,
changing that job description, always looking at it and saying, okay, yeah, this I'm not staying in my strength zone here. This is not giving me joy anymore. I need to delegate this. And so together, us sitting down and saying, okay, who could we delegate this portion to? What is
I
it?
love that.
Yeah. Yeah, just constantly re-looking at that. That's so beautiful. Okay, let's talk about the pillars. I'm dying to know what exactly are the pillars of success that you train on.
Yeah, so the pillars, it's beauty, because of course we're in the beauty industry, and I believe that beauty is so much, it goes way deeper than hair and skincare. Mindset, nutrition, movement, and community.
I love it. Sean's gonna really like the movement and nutrition. So he
Yeah,
he he got me to switch over to become a carnivore. So well, I'm sort of carnivore-ish, because
yeah. Were
can't
you vegan
cook
before?
everything. So before I used to be vegan, vegetarian, all the things. So this was a huge shift for me. And so he's yeah, I feel 1,000% better. So yeah, I love that you're including nutrition and movement in this because that affects mindset. It affects
Yes.
beauty.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Which one do you find when you're coaching leaders, do they abandon the most?
Probably nutrition and mind, or not, nutrition and movement.
Mm.
Yes. And I feel like those are almost tied.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you do to coach salon owners on this?
Honestly, a lot of it is mindset. And our nutrition, it really goes back to emotional ties of our childhood or of stress. And people stress eat, people eat when
Yep.
they're sad, people eat when they're happy, people drink when they're happy. It's such an emotional tie. And so, really, like getting to the bottom of why they're holding on to certain things, it makes it easier to let go. And then really, really expressing it is a lifestyle shift. It is not a diet. I don't believe in
Hmm.
dieting.
Mhm.
I think there's seasons
Yeah.
where you need to be more disciplined. I always call it, it's a season of discipline. So if we're cutting out donuts, it's only, until like this result is achieved. And then you add it in every now and then instead of every day or whatever. I love donuts. It's always like my example. But yeah, so it's like you have a season of discipline and you're going to really be disciplined of what you're consuming and then you're making it a lifestyle. And so have the donut every now and then. But then every morning have your healthy meal. So when you have the donut, there's no guilt. There's no like beating yourself up over it. It's just something that you're eating and that's fine because there's a lot of delicious food in the world, but everything in moderation, and
Mm.
especially with our nutrition. And I was vegan as well. So I was vegetarian, then I was vegan, and it'll in July this year it'll be 1 year that I started eating meat again. And so I'm still new. I'm like
Love it.
I call myself a carnivore too because I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a carnivore. Um, but yeah, it
That's
was
amazing.
I had that emotional tie, so I have pet pigs and so mini pigs. And so yeah, I purely cut out meat on an emotional level.
Mm.
And then I was eating I would tell you at first, like, oh, I'm not a healthy vegan. I'm vegan for the animals. You know, like there's the healthy vegan, then there's like the
Yeah.
economical vegan, and then there's vegan for the animals. I was like, I am vegan for the pigs. Like I just like couldn't help it. But so I was emotionally eating for 10 years. Like I was vegetarian for a year and then vegan for 9 or so years. And in those years, yeah, I destroyed my gut. I was eating all of the processed stuff. I
Same.
was eating all
Mm-hmm.
of the things that have soybean oil and canola oil and all of these oils that destroy us. And so I was having issues, like a lot of issues after all of those years. And then that was really
Mm.
like 2 or 3 years ago is when the lightning lifestyle really started and my nutrition really shifted. And it took me about 2 years before I added meat back into my diet. I added eggs first and then raw dairy, and then I was not seeing the results. And I was deficient in literally everything. So I had added the meat back in. So I really tackle the emotional side of the nutrition because a lot of the times that's what it goes to.
I love that. That makes me so happy to hear that you just, without even asking, you just preach the benefits of eating meat. So I love that. So
Yes,
thank you.
I feel the best I've ever felt, truly. And I've had people comment, like, to me, it sounds like weird, but it makes sense. But someone was like, oh, your coloring is better. Like, you're not as like ghostly white all the time. And I was like, really? Like, I
I know.
never,
Gray. You turn gray when you're vegan. If you look at vegan people, I did. I turned gray.
yes,
Yeah.
It's
I
crazy.
did too. And now I see it.
Scary.
You know, I think when we're in it, we're just like, no, it's
I know.
definitely not that. And now it's like, no, it definitely was.
Love that. So another part of your pillars that you talked about is movement.
Yes.
And I want to hear your take on movement and the value that it adds back to yourself.
Oh man, I think movement adds value in every aspect of our life. It transforms our mind, it transforms our body, it makes us stronger. I run marathons, and so
Oh.
that is like huge. Like it's an endurance thing for me. All of my goals are like long-term goals. They only make sense long term. And I feel like that's why I love running the marathons because it's that challenge and it's a reminder that I can do anything and it pays off. And you're training for months to run one day for 4 hours. And um, but before all of that, I movement has always been something that was very important in my family growing up. And I always saw my mom running. I always saw my sister running. And then I grew up running, not major distance, but like 4 or so miles. And then when I was going through depression, I stopped. Like my movement stopped, my nutrition. I was eating pizza, and that was before I was vegan. So I was eating just like cheese on cheese on cheese and pasta on pasta. And yeah, I just stopped everything. And then there was one day that I was doing like a branding shoot, and the my one friend who was doing the shoot, he just got into fitness. He had like a huge lifestyle transformation, and I had told him, I was like, oh, I need to like get back to the gym. And he's like, yeah, you just need to do it. And
Hmm.
it was just that simple thing of like, yeah, I do. And I feel like
Do
I
it.
went to the gym the next day. And it was from that that like then the movement, it just really started shifting my life. And I think when we're moving and we're feeling better, then by default we want to eat better. And we're seeing a transformation anyways just from that movement. And then I think those two go hand in hand, which I think goes back to why a lot of people resist those two together.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Let's
You
let's
said,
Oh, I'm
oh,
so sorry, Sean. I was gonna say let's end this out with and I want to go for 8 hours with you because this is so good. I cannot wait for you to meet with our future professionals. What is some of the programs that you offer to salons?
So I offer one-on-one coaching for salon owners and hairstylists, any entrepreneurs really, and we dive deep on whatever you're struggling with and it's very customized. And then I also do breakthrough sessions and I am certified mindset coach through NLP, timeline therapy and hypnosis. And so that is one area of your life and we dive really deep into that. So it can be career, lifestyle, nutrition, mindset, anything specific, and then we go all in on that and work through that, and we can overcome self-doubt, traumas that we've experienced, and anything that's holding us back. And then from there, I always recommend one-on-one coaching after, just to maintain and keep up the up leveling and get you where you want to go. We have 4 different lifestyle journals that you can purchase. So if you want something that's more self-paced and on your own, then we have the nutrition edit, and that gives you recipes, meal plans, what to buy from the grocery store, and it's all simple, easy, healthy, and affordable recipes. Because I always say eating healthy is fun, eating healthy is easy, and eating healthy is affordable. Because those are 3 big things that are limiting beliefs in most people's lives. And then we have the morning routine journal, and that customizes your own personal morning routine. That's something that is a standard in my life. I do not start my day without my morning routine because
Mm.
it builds resiliency to get you through the day. And because some of the days we are just getting through, or it's completely making you thrive through the entire day. So, a morning routine is so important. And then we have the food journal, and that's logging everything. So if you're really trying to get to the root of issue that you're having, that's what that one is for. And then we have nutrition edit, morning routine. And then we have the liberate your lifestyle. And every day that's a journal. It gives you a prompt to do to really free yourself and your mind and your lifestyle together.
Girl,
And
you
then,
language with all these journals. I love
yeah. And yeah, so those are the main ways to work with me.
How do people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Shelbie Moser, at Lightning Lifestyle Coaching, Facebook, the same. I'm the same on everything, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. And you can go to lightninglifestylecoaching.com as well, and everything is there.
Hmm. Awesome.
You're still a Ferrari, and I'm not surprised actually. So it just kind of came back in a different direction. And what I'm seeing it's coming back in your strength zone and your zone of genius. And that gives you energy, of course, when you do that. And the last question that I have, and then I'll let Sean ask the very last question, but the last question I have is you took a like a whole different career path that most people don't take. Some people just take one lane and one lane alone, and then they stay in that lane. But I love that you weren't afraid to jump in a bunch of different lanes. And I know that's your personality, of course, because I think a lot of our graduates in our cosmetology school, they're so confused. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And you don't have to do just one thing. Give advice to a brand new graduate.
I love this question because I used to put myself in the hairstylist box, and I was like, I'm just a hairstylist, but I felt pulled in so many different directions. And we are not just a hairstylist. That is one of the things that we do within this industry. But that's the coolest thing about this industry is you find what you love and then go with it. You can, if you love like the chemistry and the makeup of the hair, then you can go into the science part of our industry. If you love working with students, you can educate. If you love hair color and cutting, you can go into a salon. If you feel the pull to be a business owner, you can open your own salon. And if you love coaching, like this industry needs a lot of coaching too, like everyone could use some coaching. And so truly, I always say life is what you make it, and you can make it doing absolutely whatever you want if you are willing to put the time and the effort in. And truly, you have to just not care what anyone says or what anyone thinks about our industry, because this industry is limitless, and so are you. You just have to believe it.
Love it. I think the last thing that I want to ask about is you talked about habits and routines.
Yes.
Talk about the importance of that. I am a huge routine person, and it's as over the past year on the nutrition and movement journey, routine has been extremely important to me. So I love when I see somebody that wants to talk about routine. So talk about the importance of habit and routine.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with my routine too. I'm so glad that you are too. I always tell people our lives are made up of our habits and our routines, because what we're spending our time on is what we're going to see the outcome of our life, and our lives are literally made up of our habits. Like, what are you doing every single day? How are you spending your time? What habits are good? What habits are holding you back? And same with your routines. I think a lot of people resist routines because it sounds restrictive to people. However, it's so empowering because it fuels you and it keeps you in with your boundaries. It just keeps you balanced, and your routines are designed to make you feel great, to make you energized. And if your routine isn't doing that, or you don't like routines, you probably had one that wasn't serving you. But you can create your routine to be whatever you want to make you feel good. And so if anyone wants a lifestyle change, that's what I tell them. Like, habits and routines, pay attention to them and just become self-aware. Again, it's a practice. So become aware of what you're doing that's holding you back, and then shift those.
Perfect way to end. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shelby. Great message today.
Yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
gonna
Thanks
have
for
to have you
having me.
back.
This is so
So
great.
good. Thanks, Shelby.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Have a great rest of your
Bye,
day.
everyone.
You too. Bye.